Today we are going to discuss cinematography, and it's very difficult to create a definite distinction between what we discussed last week, and that was mise en scène and cinematography, because in a way, mise en scène is maybe an important part of cinematography. But for our topics at this point, think of mise en scène as what is in sort of arranged in front of the camera. What what is that we're looking at, and the art of capturing that image, framing it, creating a mood, or just how what is in front of the camera is presented to us is the art of cinematography. In a way, every aspect of a movie is shot by the cinematographer. It's the director of photography who transforms everything that is in front of us into moving images. So again, what we have done in the last 3 weeks, still like in any time that you analyze a movie, you analyze cinematography to some degree. So the analysis of cinematography includes a number of things. The shape of the shot, the angle of the camera, its proximity to its subject, the nature of camera movement, if there is any. Sometimes you have static shots, the speed and length of the shot. And you should know that cinematography is not just happening at the time that we turn the camera on. So there are every aspects of movies, from pre-production, writing the script, casting the talents, imagining the look of the film, and then designing and shooting and the post-production. In all these stages, um, to make a very good movie, the director of photography should be present. Sometimes the directors of photography or cinematographers do search just the location long before the shooting gets starts, because they need to know where should they put the lighting boxes, what sort of light at different time of the day is present in that location. So it's something that the directors, long before beginning the filming, usually they talk to cinematographers about all these aspects. A number of things, like even sometimes the angles of the camera, for example, they're presented in the technical scripts. So cinematography is the process of capturing moving images on film or a digital storage device. Cinematography is closely related to still photography, but its methods and technologies clearly distinguish it from its static predecessors. So today we're going to talk about major features of this unique art. Again, when I talk about the sort of collaborative techniques, we have set designers, we have the directors and the cinematographers. But it's the cinematographer who makes every specific decisions about how the movie will be photographed at the end. So when the collaboration between the different directors and the cinematographer is a good one, the image that we see on the screen corresponds closely to what the director expected from the DP to capture, basically. So look at, again, close framing, open framing. So look at these definitions. I'm not going over all these things in the glossary that I have attached in Blackboard. So one of the most important rules in cinematography is 180-degree rules. It's one of the things that usually they teach you in film schools. And it's one of the things that actually, in practice, people, tossing it out from the window right away. It's not always working. The principle of 180-degree rule is that if you have multiple cameras shooting a scene, All the cameras should be placed in on one side of the scene, because if you place one camera and pass this axis of action, this line, uh, you're going to confuse the viewer. They are going to they come to the idea that actually the two characters are not um, talking to each other directly, but they are like their backs are kind of confronted. So to avoid that sort of confusions, all the cameras should be on one side. This is a principle for sport photography. If you see a basketball game or a soccer game, um, all the cameras, like it seems that there's just one line, and all the cameras are on just one side. You never see the switch unless it's just a slow motion, an important scene. Otherwise, the movement. So you see all the events that are taking place in a team sport event only from one side of the stadium. Film stocks. So now we have digital photography, but they're also very important. We have fast and slow film. So the fast one is extremely sensitive to light and useful in low light situation because if you expose it for a long time, it quickly burns the images, and you're not going to be able to capture details of the image. Slow require a lot of light, but the thing is that it captures the image precisely. These two scenes from Touch of Evil, the top, uh, like these two different scenes of the same movie, were filmed by using different film stock. The one at the top, using fast film stock. And you don't see many details in the background. It just, the scene is very plain. It just captured quickly. So it gives that sort of flat quality again. As if it's not something that you see all objects and little things in the scene in focus. The one here, so with Orson Welles and Marlene Dietrich, you see how little lines in the curtain in the background. Everything in the movie, everything is captured in detail, and it's just because it used slow camera movement. Sorry, a slow film stock. Depth. Depth of the field is the range of distance within which objects can be photographed and remain in sharp focus. So we have deep focus composition or deep focus cinematography. In these two scenes, you see that the use of deep focus. So layers from the foreground to the background, like in 12 Angry Men and There Will Be Blood, are in focus. And so this is something that gives evolved in history of cinema, specifically in post-war American cinema, in film noir, and directors like Orson Welles started to use um, uh, this certain lenses that would allow them deep focus cinematography. Let's see a scene from Citizen Kane. It's a director's, it's actually a cinematographer's film. So at the end of this movie, in the credits, Orson Welles divided the credit sequence in equal portions, and so his name as a director and the name of Toland, the DP, are kind of are inscribed in equal fonts and equal part of the credits.
Are we going to declare war on Spain or are we not? Oh, Mama, here they come. Stupid motherfuckers. Are we going to declare war on Spain or are we not?
The Inquirer already had.
You long-faced, overdressed anarchist.
I am not overdressed.
You are too. Mr. Bernstein, look at his necktie.
Let's have the song about Charlie.
Mr. Kane.
Is there a song about Charlie?
Is there a song about you, Mr. Kane? You buy a bag of peanuts in this town, you get a song written about you.
Good evening, Mr. Kane. There is a man. A certain man. And for the poor, you may be sure that he'll do all he can. Who is this one? His favorite son. That by his action has the traction magnets on the run. Who loves to smoke? And Georgia joke. And wouldn't get a bit upset if he were really broke. With wealth and fame, he's still the same. I'll bet you five you're not alive if you don't know his name. What is his name? What is his name? It's Mr. Kane. He doesn't like that Mr. He likes good old Charlie.
Isn't it wonderful? Such a party. What's the matter?
Me, who says a miss? Was made to kiss. And when he leaves, one always tries to do exactly this. Who buys the food? Who buys the drinks? Who thinks the dough was made to spend and acts the way he thinks? Now is it Joe?
Bernstein.
I'll
These
bet you
men who are now with
So look at this scene where the camera is located. So you see again different layers. Kane is in the focus in the middle ground, but in the foreground, the two figures talking about Kane's are seen at large. Look at Orson Welles' self-awareness of the presence of the camera or its location when he's throwing his coat at the camera.
Clara, who were with the Chronicle until yesterday.
Oh, Mama, please buy me that. Why?
Oh, no, the brunette. Where'd you learn that, Charlie?
I bet you can learn it in the office.
Bernstein.
And like these reflections are very interesting as they talk about Kane. Through the reflection, Kane is always stays in the middle ground and in focus. He's the subject of the talk, but it was something about him that is not really aware of.
These men who were with the Chronicle, weren't they just as devoted to the Chronicle policies as they are now to our policies?
Sure, they're just like anybody else. They got work to do, they do it. Only they happen to be the best men in the business.
So the technique that I want to discuss at this time in this clip is rack focus. And so it's when one character, look at the character in the foreground is in focus, the rest of the image is not in focus. As a quick switch to what subject is in focus and not is going is known as rack focus. So he's going to call this guy. See, all of a sudden, the character who was not in focus is switched. The background is now becoming focused, and like the rest of the scene is indeed focused. You want to look at that scene again. So that was the use of shallow focus and racking focus, and this deep space photography we just talked. What are the zooms? So there are also two cinematographic techniques for dolly zoom and tracking shot. So the dolly zoom is something that I think was invented by Alfred Hitchcock in the movie Vertigo. So it's continually adjusting the focal lenses while the camera moves away from or towards the subject. Um, you can search it. Please search the dolly zoom and maybe dolly zoom and Hitchcock or just dolly zoom, and you will find on the internet an example. If you search it in YouTube, an example, a quick example of what the dolly zoom